Welcome. It's your man Got a Dots back with another Freestyle Friday show, man. I hope everybody's had a very good week. Been weird for me, man. Been weird. Been weird the last couple of days. Been weird. Let me put this in here just in case anybody wants to come up. Yeah, tonight's Freestyle Friday show, man. We're gonna be kind of a little bit all over the places. I got some thoughts, some random type stuff, and I didn't, know how to really fit into the constraints of a show. So I'm, just kind of put this out here and have an open discussion about some of the stuff that's come out. How you doing, Dr. Nikki? Let me start off with this. If you saw the thumbnail, I know you probably wondering, like, why the hell does Dots have Vince McMahon up there? For those who are unaware, a former staffer for the WWE or WWF for old school wrestling fans, has accused the company's founder Vince McMahon of sexual assault, trafficking, and physical abuse in the lawsuit that was filed just yesterday. Is disturbing to think. And then I kind of wanted to start with this story because I think it kind of transcends just the world of wrestling. When you think about the possible ramifications of this, if you've been abreast of what's been going on in the media, social media, sports and entertainment, and I don't really like to phrase it like this, but it's probably the simplest way to phrase it. The Me Too movement has kind of taken hold in the culture to where people are coming out and bringing to light deviant activity that happened in the past to them. And you, like I said, you see this more in regards to like the Harvey Weinsteins, the Epsteins, and notably in African American culture, Bill Cosby and R. Kelly. You were seeing that mainly in like the entertainment type world, and this is like for me. Outside of the story a couple of years ago, dealing with Robert Kraft and the alleged kind of indecent traffic. Hold on for a second, y'all. I don't get company over here too often. But still. Welcome to the show.
Oh, lies and deception. You don't get company often, but you always get Dr. Nikki.
How you doing, Miss Lady?
I am well. How are you? And what in the hell?
Yes. I'm doing fine. Well, as fine as I can be. I'm in a weird spot.
You sound better. I'll put it like that.
Well, thank you. I have been, trying to take the honey and tea and herbal advice of different people. But yeah, this I wanted to, it stuck out to me because I think with this, this story coming out with Vince McMahon being sued for alleged, mainly for alleged sex trafficking. I'm not saying necessarily fearful, but I'm expecting to see this transcend just from the world of wrestling, and you're going to start seeing these stories involving NFL teams, NBA teams, alleging that, hey, back in the early 80s and 90s, the Magic Johnson era, the Los Angeles Lakers was sex trafficking us to visiting teams. Yeah.
So can I please, with my male identified self, I have been accused of being male identified, and I think that's supposed to be a dig. I don't know. When you're an academic and you just come into like, regular world stuff and you don't necessarily know the jargon or the slang or, as words evolve, sometimes you kind of don't realize when you're being dissed. Mm-hmm. So with my male identified self, I'm going to say this. I find very disturbing and problematic that now all of a sudden people kind of remember that they were underage.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden you remember that you were underage and that oftentimes a lot of the things you did on your own volition,
Mm-hmm.
and that you kind of took pride in being able to get into these spaces that you weren't supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So, and I think you kind of understand where I'm going without just coming out with it.
I get it.
Because in high school, that's kind of what it was kind of in vogue to do that.
Yeah, it still is. To my knowledge, that when you're young, and I don't even want to just kind of like paint this picture that it was just young people, but just you wanted to be with a more mature crowd because you wanted to be grown. I
Yeah, or just to see if you could even get in and enjoy, or just to see if you could get in to see what it was they were doing.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of reasons for people to be in spaces that they're not necessarily old enough to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And then people do mature at different rates. So, I don't, it bothers me that it seems to be okay. So let me back up. So it bothers me that people are relying on 30-year-old information when some people can't remember what they did last month to formulate these cases, because now all it takes is a picture to say that you were there, and then it's possible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
And
saying? It's like the older it is, the less evidence, the
it's
less
required.
concrete the evidence you have to have, because now we're in a Me Too movement and you don't want to be insensitive. So to me, for those people who legitimately belong in that movement, per you know per se, um, I don't know. I would probably be a little bit upset.
Yeah, and and we've had this discussion for those who are coming in. How you doing, Keep brother of a certain age, Miss Murph? We me and the good homie Slant have had this conversation over on the Not Sector show, but just to see it kind of this is for me outside of the Robert Kraft situation a couple years ago, to see this kind of creeping into the world of sports, and I think they're going to be a lot more successful of getting lawsuits going and getting that traction in the sports world, because you know when you think of sports, and you think of outside of the lines, you think of the groupie culture. um
Right. And I don't want to be glib about it, but what are you going to do? Dig up Wilt Chamberlain's ass and say out of the thousands of women he slept with, about
yep,
500 of them were underage?
yep. And then you would think, and that's part of the problem I had. And kind of, we're kind of all over the place with this show, folks. That's kind of the problem I have with the Bill Cosby stuff, because none of this stuff was actually, substantiated. This is not really like hardcore, tangible evidence. Like, he slipped something in my drink, and I remember it from 1974, and but they went with it.
Right,
Um,
but it was part of the culture of where they were, where everybody was slipping something in everybody's drink.
yeah.
And you knew that before you got there, that this is what they did. So my question, just honestly, and these are just for rational thinking people, at what point in time do you fault the people for being in that space when you know that's what's going on?
But it becomes a slippery slope, because you know on one hand you have that line of thinking right there, but then you have that other part of the Me Too movement, where you don't want to be seen as victim shaming, because some of these claims may are legitimate. I'm just going to say that are legitimate, but in my opinion, some of them are not. But you don't want to get caught um telling someone that their story is a lie, whether you believe it or not, because you don't want to be seen as victim shaming. It is a very a kind of a real slippery slope when you don't go down that path, especially when we're talking about sexually deviant behavior. It is a very slippery slope, and I'm actually surprised that this person and for to give people further information on the story. She's a former staffer that was paid off, was given hush money, was given had a alleged quote unquote NDA. It was paid hush money over the years, and that kind of that scandal led to him being removed as the CEO of the company that he founded. and now she's coming back and doubling back and saying now, he was sex trafficking me. He was, making me do stuff, and recording me doing stuff, sexually unusual behavior, and sending it to people for business purposes or whatever kind of purposes he was using it for. I look at this as kind of like being, if this lawsuit is able to be successful, I'm gonna start seeing, and I hate to call them this, but call it for what they were, groupies from this, the 60s, 70s, 80s, even up to now, coming out saying, I want a piece of the Los Angeles Lakers because a staffer allowed me access to the hotel, and back in, I was one of the girls Magic Johnson slept with back in the day. I mean, it's such a slippery and nasty kind of slope, but it has received a lot of traction, and now it's spilling over. I believe it's going to start spilling over into the sports world.
Well, I tell you what, I let me. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. It's going to be something when it slides over into like the higher ed. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
And let it go. I'll say that, and we'll table that for when it does happen, and it's a mainstream story. But I don't think that you should get paid for being a professional groupie, because you've already been paid. And to my knowledge, although I am not, an attorney, and I'm not giving legal, advice at all,
Mm-hmm.
that non-disclosure agreements don't cover crimes.
Exactly.
So at what point do you put the onus on the person who took the hush money, but you realize that you were being paid to be quiet about a crime? Like, is there any mitigating factors there that, would say, you don't fall into this?
I'm not even sure. I mean, because like let's say with this particular story here, the staffer, like she was paid hush money for years.
Right, exactly. Knowing what you're
Yeah.
doing. Not hush because I'm having an affair, but hush because I'm committing a crime, or not hush because I'm cheating on my girlfriend, or hush because I just need you to look the other way. Because girls aren't supposed to be in the locker room, or we're violating some sort of policy, but just hush and be complicit.
Yes.
It's different if you walk in on something and you be like, oops, and be like, oh, nope, you got that, but you're complicit in this, meaning
Mm-hmm.
you are part of the crime. That's what is problematic for me. You're a willing participant in this.
And I think that gets lost in the translation because you don't want to be seen publicly. You don't want to be seen as someone that is blaming, quote unquote, the victim for being the victim. And when you put it in the frame that you put it in, where you know that you're complicit in this behavior, why?
Multiple times.
Yeah, like why all of a sudden now? It was cool when you was taking the hush money. Now you realize, and I think, and in this particular case, I think she realizes, hey, it's a bigger bag to be had. Because now you've opened him up to a lawsuit. To even give further detail, now the WWE and the UFC are part of TKO media group. We're talking about
Hmm.
billions of dollars.
Billions of dollars.
Now you see it as, oh, I only got paid a couple million over these years, but now that I know that it's just a large inflush of cash into this company, now let me kind of double back and get a little bit more.
Right,
And
and get the bag, and so I'm getting paid double. I'm getting paid for being complicit, and now I'm getting paid because I was a victim. I have a problem with that.
yeah, I mean, it's a nasty. And it's like it's kind of like the nasty part of when you discussing and looking at the like Me Too movement, like that, because it's one thing for you to be underage and you come out and and like, yeah, this is what happened to me when I was a child, but these are like adults being involved in, and let's call it what it is. A lot of the times it's criminal activity. Um,
And
but
so it becomes trafficking because you all traveled. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, trafficking. I mean, just it's the language of it, and just
But where's the force in that? So are you trafficking because your cheerleaders are 18 and they just happen to fall on the penis of a player? I mean, I don't I'm really not trying to be facetious, but I am. It's like, at what point do you draw very clear lines as to what's applicable and what is not
I,
without the circus? You know what I'm saying? And all of the damage that can be done if your case does not apply.
I don't, and see that's the I think that's the problem that the justice system is having with this movement. Like how it's like you want to be overly. It's like they're overly sensitive um, to the victim and not really asking real hard questions on like, okay, how can you recall this? Especially stuff we're talking about 30 to 40 years ago. How can you recall this particular moment and why now? Um, it is messy, but like I said, I see this being a kind of a watershed moment to where it's going to start spilling into sports, and you're going to start seeing people. I wouldn't be surprised somebody comes out, a groupie from the '80s. I want to sue the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan because every time he came to Detroit, the staffers made sure I had access to the hotel. It's messy.
But
It
so
be,
let me add another layer to this as far as just my angst for this in its entirety.
mhm.
Because you're talking about 30, 40 years ago, something happened and it is worthy of having a conversation. But when
Mhm.
it comes to reparations for Black people, something that you have documented historically and made your built your country, like, it's not even like we can't even talk about you know, a Black slave enslaved, unwillingness to work for free for years and years and years conversation. Like, when are we going to have that movement?
Well, I'm with you on that, but and I'm pretty sure with you working in education, you see what they're doing on lower levels of education, where they're pretty much um
Erasing all of that
er-
talk.
erasing all of that
So it's
for
not even
being
a thought.
yeah for to not even even being they're not teaching that is outlawed, especially in a lot of states. It's been written out of a lot of history books.
Hmm.
And I'm looking at it from that point of view, where that's their way to kind of counteract that reparation in a way to kind of counteract the reparations movement, where if you don't know your history, we're talking about children, middle school, I think it's even in Florida, I think it's even down to elementary school now. um, if you don't know your history, it's almost like you'll be a more docile Black person because you won't grow up knowing the atrocities that happen in this country, and reparations won't be a focus of yours because you won't know about stuff like the Black Panthers and what.
Yeah, you won't carry on the conversation. The
Yeah,
conversation dies with the millennials. And
yeah,
it's even difficult to get the millennials to clearly understand because, life for them has definitely been a crystal staircase.
yeah. But hey, I see. I I mean, I want I have supposedly have a debate next week, and I want to kind of save a lot of my thoughts on that. Um,
Sure,
if
sure.
I
But that's what I was just likening that movement to when you
yeah
say 30 to 40 years of the only real documentation that you have is a picture or that you work for this institution, as opposed to, documentation from another country that they went to a country where you were living on your own, minding your business. Coming over here, I don't know. This is where I came with that. So
I mean,
I'm
like
gonna
I
pipe
said,
down.
the Me Too movement is just for me is weird. Even reporting on it because, like I said, you don't want to be seen as insensitive to people's trauma, but at the same time, a part of you this questions like, why now? Where's the tangible proof? Like, all I have is your word and a picture from an event that happened back then, but you're giving me this grandiose story. Um, to follow up with a brother of a certain age says it's up to us to teach our history if that's what they want our for our kids. Schools that never really taught us accurate history. Correct. Um, and I completely agree with your assessment that we do need to teach our own history to our kids. It is very important to know, not just that I have a dream speech. It is very important. It's more than life than MLK, but that's all they really want you to focus on. And they just want you to focus on that part with MLK. But that's a conversation, complete conversation for another day. Now, since you up here, I want to get your thoughts. It was a story that came out. I don't know if you was aware of it, but the Department of Justice has joined a lawsuit challenging the NCAA transfer eligibility rule. Did you
Hmm.
did you hear about this?
I did. I didn't have a chance to delve into it, but I did hear about it.
Okay, so for those who haven't heard about it,
Mhm.
the Justice Department has joined 10 states in a civil antitrust lawsuit, um, going against in reference to the NCAA transfer eligibility rules. Um, Basically, they want NCAA wants to restrict the transfer quote unquote portal. Um, but they don't want kids jumping from college to 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 college. Um, I'm pretty sure you're aware what the old transfer rules was. If you transfer to another school, you had to sit out a year. That's no longer there. But um, I look at it. I'm on board with them suing the NCAA because if guys look at a situation, let's say with the situation with the University of Alabama, Nick Saban retires. Okay, boom. I was signed there. I was playing there. I'm out of here. I want to go somewhere else and play. Or if I get to that situation, I don't like it. Let me go. Let these guys go where they want to go.
Or if your
Because,
coach goes to another place, like with Dion, he
mm-hmm,
took some students with him from Jackson State to Colorado.
mm-hmm,
Like you should be able to do that. It's no
yeah,
different than changing leaderships. When they come in and they bring their own people. You
yeah.
mean to tell me I can't leave and then work for another administration if I don't like what you got, the new setup, or go back to where I came from? Like that's crazy.
Well, what they're doing, what NCAA is doing, the transfer with the transfer portal, they're only giving them one chance to transfer. Um, say a guy gets recruited to Alabama, he doesn't get any playing time. He only has one opportunity to transfer somewhere else. And let's say he was to transfer, was coming from Georgia and he was going to Alabama. Nick Saban retires. Now he's stuck in Alabama playing for the new coach and not having an opportunity to transfer somewhere else because the situation changed from when he initially transferred.
So
I'm
how is
on
that going to work for JUCOs?
same way. They
But
get
that
they
doesn't
get
make
one.
sense. It's like you're playing as a junior college, player, and you're transferring in because junior college is 2 years. You still have those other 3 years or other 4 years of eligibility because, as I say, you get 10 semesters of eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, are they going to be counted differently? Like, you have to transfer. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to go somewhere else
Yep,
because
they're
you're a
allowing them
junior
to
college
transfer.
player.
They're only what the NCAA is trying to do is limit the amount of transfers. So these guys,
Right. But do
um,
they get two?
no, they only get one. They only, that's what the NCAA is trying to limit it to because, every time you turn around, guys are committing, decommitting, transferring here, transferring there, and it's the NCAA in their way of trying to control the flow of players moving around. They want to limit the amount of transfers they're able to have during a quote unquote collegiate career.
But professional sports doesn't do that.
Well, NCAA don't look at themselves as a professional sport and entity. even though let's call it what it is, the NCAA is $1 billion, business.
Absolutely.
But they don't want to be looked at as being primarily, a business. They want to be looked at as a educational institution.
But you're a feeder system for professional sports.
I know that. You know that. But that's, in their warped mind, they don't want to be seen as what they are. The NCAA is a business. They're in the business of making money, signing TV deals, sponsorship deals, all kind of licensing deals. Sports is big business, and they don't want to be seen as like a governing body for sports. They just want to be seen as, we're an educational entity. We just happen to have intercollegiate sports. We just happen to kind of delve into that. They don't want to be seen as a NFL or an NBA. They don't want to really be seen like that. So I think that's part of their thing of trying to restrict players from transfer, because for years players when they transferred, they had to sit. They had to sit. Lost time on the field, lost playing time. They had to sit. Now with how the portal is, guys are just jumping all over the place. And for me, it don't matter to me, because I don't really get attached to the players at a university anywhere. I know that they're only there for a hot minute. 3 years
Right.
minimum in football, and college basketball. A lot of these guys are one and done.
Right. And that
But
is, again, like you said, if they stay healthy and eligible and all this other foolishness that goes along with it. Well, it's not foolishness, but the rules.
yeah, what's going on, Spider? What's going on, Germ? Yeah, I'm like, but I'm surprised. Am. Let me say, I'm surprised by this. The DOJ getting involved in it. I'm not sure how that's going to work, because the NCAA is a different kind of an animal.
So are they not going to make them sit out a year, since now you're saying you can only transfer so many times?
I'm not sure what the NCAA just wants to limit the transferring. Because when they revamped it, and it was like, okay, now you can transfer and you don't have to sit for a year. Like, you can leave this school and next year be starting somewhere else. What they're wanting to do is limit to where you can't be playing for Clemson this year. You can transfer to Alabama next year, but then like the year after that, you can't be trying to transfer somewhere else. Like, you got some quarterbacks, mainly quarterbacks that I've seen do it, have tried to transfer, have transferred at least to about three. I want to say it's a quarterback. He was at Clemson 1 year. 1 year he was at Cal, or something. Like, he's been in like 3 or 4 different schools.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he got hurt 1 year, so that they gave him another year of eligibility. You see players jumping around to get themselves into the best position. So it's not unusual now to see a college athlete sign on with a university, be there for a year, not get any burn, any playing time, realize I'm trying to make it to the league, I'm trying to get a bigger spotlight, and I'm transferring. And now with how they revamped the rules, I don't have to sit for a year. I don't have to lose a year of eligibility. What the NCAA is wanting to do is like, hey, you only get one shot. You get to transfer one time, and that's it. So your next choice, you're kind of like stuck, which I don't think is fair, because you don't do that to coaches. Coaches are able to freely go where they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, a job opens up, even though I already have a job, I want that job. And that how that go.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair either. And I think that before you do the next Freestyle Friday, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a call to some of my friends who are head coaches at some institutions,
Mhm,
as well as get in contact with another one of my really good friends who is the faculty athletic representative,
mhm.
who deals with a lot of these policies firsthand, and see if I can find out, like, get some feedback from, other colleagues and how, the discussion around that and where it's going,
Yeah, I'm curious.
and
Yeah,
give you some feedback on that.
I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know their thoughts and opinions on it. Because, like I said, I'm like I'm surprised this is kind of going on. The DOJ is kind of stepping in and joining in on the lawsuit. Because I was unaware that the NCAA was trying to do this. I just knew, on my sports feed, I got tired of hearing about such and such switch to school. I was like, yeah, I don't even care anymore. Um,
Hmm.
you go where you want to go, young man. If they got a spot for you to start. I don't care. I don't get attached to you guys like that anyway. I'm more, with college. I mean, but you know how it is with college sports. You're more attached to the university than the actual player.
Right, right. It's not about the player; it's about the institution.
Yeah, correct.
But you remember we talked about this before with certain teams where it was about the coach and not the school. Like when you
Mhm.
talk about Duke, you don't say Duke, you say Coach K, or or
Yeah,
your
I'm
dude with down there with the roll tide.
roll, roll,
I get
goddamn,
it.
roll, goddamn tide. But you know what I mean? It's like I never got, I never got attached. I mean, with college sports, I always knew, hey, these guys are here for a second. I'm not really concerned about really getting to know them, getting attached to them. It's not, when these guys go pro, when they go pro, it's a different thing. Because
And
you might,
that's why I stopped watching them. That was one of the reasons why I stopped following people at the collegiate level. My husband does that, and then I've got a nephew that follows them from high school to college to the pros, and I was like, no, this is too much for me. I'll just follow them once they actually get on the team and just go from there. I can't do all of that. It's too much and too many.
well, I'm like that with college basketball to a degree. Like I can't get into college basketball until February when we start talking about the tournament is coming.
Gotcha.
And that's when I start kind of like, okay, listen, who's who and what's what.
Right.
Because I'm
Then,
right, I'm
then you get
feeling
a
out
little
the bracket.
interested in individuals. Up
Yeah,
until then, it's about the schools
yeah. I'm not even.
and the brackets.
I couldn't tell you who's number one in college basketball. If someone walk up on me
Me
and was like,
neither.
I was like, I don't know. Speak to me in February when we're talking about brackets, and then at that time I'm doing research. Okay, who's number one? Who's got a
Exactly. Exactly.
other. I mean, but I look at the NCAA in their weird kind of way, looking at these guys transfer, and it's like it makes I mean because they make a lot of money off these guys' jerseys too.
Hmm.
And it comes down to money. It comes down to money. But if I'm the NCAA, I don't care. Because if a guy wants to play and he has years of eligibility left, he has eligibility left. Let him play where he wants to play. You're gonna get paid off of him either way. But
Yeah, but there's also some lane switch in there too, because I mean, you just made the point about it being about the money, and they're actually going to college to finish and to matriculate, things of that nature. So I don't know. I feel like it's something like definitely much deeper than this going on, to where there's some sort of a conflict.
Mhm.
And as I said, I would have to talk to the people, that I know who actually deal with that all day, every day, to try to figure out and get them to help me see, okay, so, Nikki, here's the bigger issue, and this is why we started this, because these are the people that can tell me how it actually became a possible lawsuit.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they got to say on that. Now, since you up here, have you been kind of keeping abreast of all the coaching changes in the NFL? This this um this kind of postseason slash off season for a lot of teams. Have you been kind of keeping up with that?
Kind of, because I'm taking my notes for our end of season discussion.
Yeah. Well, one thing is jumped out at me, and it jumped out at me last off season. The fact that Washington Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy can't get a job,
Uh-huh.
and I'm concerned. I think it's something um deeper than he's black going on.
That's interesting.
I think it's something deeper than that because for a guy who was an offensive coordinator for a Super Bowl winning franchise like the Kansas City Chiefs, two times, had a pretty good offensive performance, all things considered for Washington, for what the talent that they did have, for this guy to not seriously be getting looked at for coaching jobs is befuddling to me.
Hmm.
And I don't think it's simply race. I don't want to come out and say what I really think it is, because it'll never come out. They would never come out in the middle. But for whatever reason, it's like blackballing, because you don't see this. I thought he was going to be like next in line um, for a head coaching job, and but it's just not matriculated. Everybody else is kind of picking off these open head coaching positions, and he's still kind of stuck. Um,
So you think Andy Reid blackballed him?
I, I I don't know if it was Andy Reid. Somebody is put a bug in somebody's ear about this guy.
Hmm.
Um, I look at the case with the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons hire former head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and former defensive coordinator for the Rams, Raheem Moore's brother, to be the new head coach, which is befuddling to me. I'm not a Falcons fan, but I find that you just got rid of a quote unquote defensive guy, to bring in another defensive guy who didn't have a lot of success first time as head coach. And you know you would think with how the game is going, where you bring in a more offensive minded guy to run your team. That's been the trend. Um,
Hmm.
for you to not look at Eric Bieniemy up there in Washington and not bring him in. I thought Atlanta would have been a perfect situation to bring him in. Allow him to draft a quarterback. He already has some pieces in place. He knows how to have successful offenses. Like Washington had a bad team, but they had a pretty good offense. I just don't want to. I just find it weird. I just find it weird that this guy just can't get a real serious look at a head coaching position. And I don't want to say it's Andy Reid, but I think someone has put a bug in a lot of these general managers' ear and a lot of these owners' ear about this guy, um, where he'll never go no further than OC coordinator. I just don't understand it. I,
Mm.
it's just a curious case. Like, I don't have no issues with Jim Harbaugh getting a head coaching job. He was successful in the NFL. He was successful in coaching. NCAA national championship this past season.
Hmm.
I knew he was going to be a hot commodity, but I look at like the Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris, like, huh? Like I look at like
You should have heard how you said such and such brother. Like they just dragged him off the street somewhere and
no, I
gave
mean,
him a
but
head
like
coaching job.
I don't think anybody was like looking at Raheem Morris, and he did a pretty good job out there with the Rams as the fifth coordinator. But I don't think anybody was looking at him like, oh man, you next up, man, you next up. Like I just I don't get it. Eric Bieniemy was offensive coordinator, and as much credit you want to give to Andy Reid, you see a year without Bieniemy how Kansas City offense looks. It looks completely different. It doesn't
Yep.
look as explosive as it was when Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator. For this guy to go to Washington, and Washington had a pretty good offense. Defense was trash, and it cost them a lot
So
of
you
games.
took my talking points. You took my talking points.
I'm just saying. But this, I thought, okay, man, Ron Rivera. I knew Ron Rivera was going to be on the way out, and I thought, hey, they brought Eric Bieniemy in to be the OC. He was going to get a real good fair shot to be the head coach. This guy cannot seem to get a job. I don't get it. Yeah,
Hmm. Well, it's either
German.
black ball or some nepotism going on somewhere in there. Because, as you said, but again, we'll revisit that. I guess whenever we have that conversation, we're jumping ahead of ourselves. But no, I am keeping up with that, and I'm watching my other resources and listening to whatever like the other conversations that are going on, like on Sports Center and ESPN. I watch those channels anyway. But
I don't watch them like as much as I got to the point where it got to be too much talking from people who just seem to just be talking. Um,
mhm.
I didn't find it to be really worthwhile conversation and information being relayed on a lot of these sports talk shows. It's like who can say the craziest stuff thing, who can get the best soundbite to be trending on Twitter and that kind of. like I don't really watch that stuff no more.
Well, speaking of that, could we pivot to Stephen A. Smith?
Go ahead.
So you didn't bring it up on the Not the Sector show. So what do you feel about his fraudulent basketball career?
I'm not surprised. Like for people who don't, yeah, I saw people like, huh? Like, yeah, his alleged, basketball career, has been called into question. Based off, excerpts from, I want to say, from his book.
His book.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm not surprised. It's he's going to embellish.
Right, but the 3-point game, like back then, the only person that we really thought about with 3-pointers was Larry Bird.
Yeah.
So Stephen A. Smith at Winston-Salem State University was doing 17 3-point shots in a row. Okay. Where were you? I don't even think they had the 3-point marker on the on the basketball courts where he played.
I mean, it sound. I mean, it's kind of like
Let me mute myself.
no, I think of when you listen to the story of Stephen A. talk like that. I'm reminded of what's that TV show, Married with Children? Al Bundy. About
Not
four
with his
touchdowns.
hands on the crotch.
Yeah, I had 4 touchdowns in one game. Like, yeah, but nobody was there to see it. Like Stephen A. is he's turned himself into a media personality with some weight, but like, dude, you don't have to embellish.
And then he came off the bench. He
Yeah,
made the team.
like how bad, and I've
Not
seen,
off the bench, a walk on. That's what I meant to say.
yeah, like, come on. Like, dude, this say, I tried out for the team, I tried to walk on, and it just didn't happen. um you, I guess that's more embarrassing, to this. All right. See, I mean, when I heard about it, and then like I never really thought about it, because he's been saying it for years. Even before the book, like he would say that kind of stuff, and like you just never really put any thought into it, because you're like, I don't remember you doing anything significant on the collegiate level anyway. So I mean, you may have scored 10 points a game for Winston-Salem. I wasn't watching them. I wasn't paying attention. So like, I never felt the need to kind of fact check that you did all that. So
I want to know why it was important.
I guess it kind of gives him, in his mind, maybe some level of credibility to discuss the kind of stuff that he's discussing.
Well, then that leads me to this question then. So, do you have to have been a player in order to be a good coach or to be an analyst for a particular sport? Do you think that that's a requirement?
I
Because I
don't.
think that's part of the discussion with him. It's like, dude, you weren't even all that, and all the heat and the criticism you give to the players that you talk about every day on your show, and you couldn't do any of this.
But at the same time, when you decide you want to, put your talent and your skills on display for the public, you have to be able to take the kind of comes with it. I don't think being a former player makes you a better analyst. Discussing the game, it doesn't. Um, it, I don't think it gives you a leg up. I mean, because I look at Dan Orlovsky. You was a marginal NFL quarterback at best.
Mm-hmm.
But he takes every chance he gets to critique Dak. Like, you couldn't even start for the Detroit Lions when they was trash. Like,
So you're saying that your the acumen that you have or the intelligence that you have for that particular game or sport doesn't have to come from you being a player of it, because you can still be a player and still not have basketball intelligence or that acumen that goes along with it.
I think you're if you have previous playing experience, I think it will help you more in the commentating side of the sports field, kind of like Tony Romo. Like Tony Romo
Mhm.
does a good job because like he's pointing out things like, hey, when I was a quarterback, I would have did this, and you see it unfold right there in front of you. I think it helps them more in that realm. But anybody can sit around and I can sit here and critique what I saw on my TV. Like
Mhm.
I don't need to be a former player to know that, hey, you having 4 interceptions this game, you had a bad game. I don't need to. You don't have to. You fumbled the ball as a running back 3 times. You had a bad game. You a cornerback and you got torched for $150. You
Right,
had a
but those
bad game.
those are obvious things. I'm talking about, like, people who are able to, where you're talking with somebody who actually knows the game, to where somebody, they would somebody else might even listen to and say, you know what, that's a keen observation there.
I mean, if you're giving me some insights into like maybe like breaking down game tape.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, okay, you have a leg up on me because you sat in the film room, you sat and
gotcha.
studied it on that. But if we're just talking about we're live on air, well, let's say if I'm doing a show here and we're live on air and we're just reacting to the game, and you're not having, we're not breaking down the game tape. We're just talking about the performances that we just saw.
Hmm.
I don't think it gives you an advantage over me. And brother certainly brings up a good point. He said you don't have to be a good player to be a good coach or analyst. Like, as long as if you take, you put the time in and put the work in, I think anybody can be a good enough analyst
Hmm.
to break down what they're seeing. I mean, because at the end of the day, that's all you're doing. And I don't see why people give Stephen A so much, maybe because he's the loudest one in the room. But
Now he
he
talks a lot of shit.
well, I mean, but he's not saying anything that you probably haven't heard. For the fellas, you probably haven't heard in a barbershop somewhere. Like, oh man, dude is trash. Dude is this. Dude is that. Like, it's a lot of stuff he kind of says. You hear it in barbershops.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think it translates for some people um on that level. I think it translates for some people on that level. But yeah, I don't. You
So you
know,
think that with this situation, it was just an opportunity to say, I know a dude who is not even average at best is not critiquing my game.
well, I mean, but that's for them that's easy to say because you can that's their kind of like their fallback. Um,
Hmm.
but at the same time, Steven, they could say, I went, actually got a degree in broadcasting. You didn't. You just walked straight off the field. Um,
Hmm.
queer pro, queer, touche. Like, I actually, had to study for this. I went to broadcasting school. You didn't. You just walked straight out of a locker room onto the set of a TV show. And because you play doesn't mean you necessarily can analyze this game better than I can and articulate it better than I mean, Max Johnson is one of the greatest players, but Jesus Christ, have you ever heard him on a microphone talking like talking about the
Oh,
game
I
of
used to say
basketball?
that about Roy Jones Jr. I was like, you are a hell of a boxer, but damn, I hate to hear you talk. When he was commentating on the side of the ring, I was like, oh my God,
Like what? Yeah, like you're like, man, you're
somebody kill his mic.
great at boxing, man, but hey, doing sports casting and analyst
It's
stuff,
like, woo.
everybody ain't able.
So,
I,
well, let me ask you this then. So, can I just kind of, I don't know, do something that might get me on punishment here for 2 weeks?
oh, geez. As long as it ain't that netta stuff,
That's exactly where I was going.
no, we're not
Somebody
doing.
said in another chat that Shannon Sharp looks like Netta. I just wanna know what you
And, you know what? I don't even want to have that visual in
okay.
my head. We're not doing that. We are not doing that. I do not want that visual um in my head. Nope, we are not doing that. I
When they
was.
said it, I saw the resemblance. I said, "Oh, okay, he might be."
I am not doing that with you again. No, 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 no. I'm talking about Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith.
Okay, okay, okay. I'm sorry. gosh, you got such a great sense of
No, Jeremy, we're not doing that. We're not doing it to my Jeremy in the chat to my Charles. No,
Charles, your dinner's, your lunch is ready.
no, no,
She got a
no,
finger on
no,
everything. Okay,
no,
back to
no.
Stephen A. Smith. Okay, what else did you have on the docket?
I think because I think I've kind of covered everything that I had on the docket for now because um yeah, because I got to do some homework for tomorrow's show, of course, and of course,
Mhm.
I'm in the other space, just
Right.
whoo, might lose some subs tonight.
Well, listen, I'll be in the clouds. I am trying to fade to black.
I
And I had
know,
somebody call me a dusty, so let me just go ahead and clean up somewhere.
yeah, but you know how I am. I'm busy, 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 and I see Germ. I'm still working on a date to kind of do that. In the new spot, we trying to do that show.
I
Uh,
can't wait. I'm so excited about you and Germ's, venture and what have you. Really,
we-
very, really proud of you and your openness to just start over and just do something different and stick with it until it either makes it or it doesn't. Like you give stuff a fair shot.
I mean, I have to be me.
What is admirable.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it wasn't an easy thing to do. It's like, hey, I'm start over, come over here, corporate space. And for people that kind of wander here and there, come through here, y'all know me. Hey, sometimes it's one in the chat, sometimes it's none. Like I just like I love sports, and this allows me to do it without the distractions that I was having in the other place. So we working. So
Yes.
I don't mind collabing with people, to have similar interests on doing stuff like the project. Me and Jeremy working on. The Good Brother Slanders involved in that. Just gonna be like for the nerds and stuff like that. So we gonna get that going in some form or fashion. But yeah, I don't mind stepping out there being me. Everybody can't do me, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. So
Absolutely, absolutely. But I like to give credit where credit is due for whatever it's worth. And I appreciate it.
okay. Um. Well. Yeah. Okay. I see. Yeah. Hold on for a second. I'm working on a couple things. All right. All right. All right.
For sure.
Um. Yeah. So I'm gonna need a full 10 panels discussion on my channel. It'll be topical, fun, and mature. Y'all interested, brother? Of a certain age, all you got to do is let me know. When you want to do it. I don't know if you caught his last live that he did when he had Bombay and grown man up there. It was
I did. I did. I had to leave early though because again, you're talking about men and and all of that. It was just too soon for me.
yeah. But yeah, brother of a certain age, whenever you need from me, man, I slide through and always show support. I think that'll be a dope, you have a dope vibe anyway. Real calm and vibe. So yeah, you let me know what you're trying to do, and I'll follow through for sure. I'll follow through for sure.
And I'll
Um,
definitely support too in whatever way I can.
yeah, yeah. Good people, man. And, I'm glad I ain't but certain people swinging through here.
Oh, but a brother of a certain age, if we could just hear you, I mean, my goodness, I don't think that I didn't know a man could speak so softly outside of the bedroom.
He brother
I
was
just
that
didn't. I was like, oh my God, I
he
cannot
don't
hear this
go
dude.
don't do that because he don't go live like that. He just
I
got to
know he don't.
work on his mic levels.
We just want to hear the good information. That's all I was saying. I was like, oh my God, I cannot hear. I need to go get my hearing checked or a new phone.
All right. So yeah, I'm out to the bedroom on my whatever you got to do, brother. Hey, I'm just saying, hey, just make sure your levels All right, when I started my live stream journey, I was like, I was playing with my audio levels because, you sound good in your headphones. I mean, but you don't really know how you sound until you kind of play with it a little bit. I constantly am adjusting my mic to make sure that I'm loud and clear in certain settings. But yeah, you set that up, man, and we'll come through and support as always. I'm pretty sure to be a classy affair. I ain't got to worry about folks hollering at each other and stuff. I ain't got the energy for that. I ain't got the energy for that. Not that hollering stuff. We can have heated debates, but I ain't doing all that hollering. All right, Miss Lady, any last words before we close out the show?
No, I was gonna go there, but I'm not. I want to. I didn't like being in timeout.
Be fine. You'll be fine. Um, Thank you everybody for coming out. Um, like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. Y'all know I got to get prepared for the other space. I got to get prepared for the other space and do my thing over there. I promise y'all, it's something. It's something. Thank y'all for coming out. Y'all know the phrase that pays over here. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but every time you learn. And I'm out.